Hello, guys and gals, and this is episode 11, or part 11 of the series on Album of Horses. It is a book by Marguerite Henry, and it is illustrated by Wesley Dennis. In this particular episode, we will be reading about the Welsh mountain pony and the Chincoteague Pony, I believe. We are just going to check the information here. This is an original copy of the book that's over 50 years old. So here we are. Yep, the Welsh mountain pony and the Chincoteague Pony. So let's get this underway. Okay, the Welsh mountain pony. In the past, if you're curious, in the past episode we talked about the Palomino and the Shetland pony. But we are to the pony part now, and there are only 2 episodes left in this, I believe. So, yeah, we are going to get this underway and get this taken care of. Blue ribbons, red ribbons, yellow ribbons, white ribbons. And so, in show classes for ponies, sometimes there is more than one kind of champion. The blue ribbon pony is always the boy whose pony just misses. For one hurt second, the boy blinks back his tears, pretending he doesn't care, and then in a flash, he really doesn't. He remembers that time his pony carried him down the slippery slide of a stone quarry until they stood at the very bottom of the cup. Then up and up again into the dizzying rim above the whole wide world. And he remembers the day his pony jumped across a deep ravine and all the others balked. Remembering all this, he strokes the sleek neck, swings astride, and bravely trots his pony out of the ring behind the winner. The judge, with a deep sigh of relief, mops his forehead. There go 2 champions, he mutters to no one at all. The light gray Welsh and the thoroughbred boy astride the dark one. More and more big shows and little ones are offering classes for the best ponies, and more the finely made Welsh is coming out of obscurity to carry away the blue ribbons. He is frequently the graduation mount for the boy or girl whose legs have grown too long for the Shetland. Who would suggest that the ancestor of this delicately made pony were half-wild refugees hiding in the crag mountains of Wales, escaping one enemy only to meet another. First, they were hunted and tracked down by the sheep herders, who looked upon them as thieves of the juicy grasses belonging to their sheep. Often the herders would capture a band, kill off the colts for food, and throw the scraps to their dogs. These sheepdogs were strong as wolves, and once having tasted pony meat, they hunted the little fellas themselves, stealing upon them silently without the least warning. A mare would be grazing peacefully, and suddenly she would look up and see a snarling dog ready to leap at her foal. In a flash, she was between them, springing at the killer with her forefeet and driving her young one into a gallop through narrow passes, up a steep scarp, leaping from ledge to ledge until at last they were safe in the folds of the mountains. Tiny colts only a few weeks old had to learn to take their first jumps to save their lives. Some were strong enough to escape. When they did, they became nimble and wondrously wise. But the sheep herders and their dogs were only small annoyances. The law was a bigger enemy. It reached out from the throne of England and shoved the ponies deeper and deeper into the mountains. King Henry VIII, with a gesture of his jeweled hand, decreed that little horses and nags of small stature must be eliminated from the common grazing grounds. As a result, many ponies were eliminated from the common As a result, many ponies were killed, and others fled into the mountain fastnesses. Here and there, Here they found a quiet tableland high above the grazing grounds, and although the rocky soil furnished scanty herbage, the air was clean and clear, and sparkling cold drinking water bubbled down the mountainside. Yet even here they were attacked. Now winter was their enemy, biting with the sharp fangs of wind, howling into their ears, spitting hail and sleet at them. Sometimes the herd had to sneak down into the valley to find food. But hardships strengthened. And so it was with the ponies. Those that survived developed hooves as flinty as the rocks they climbed, and hocks and haunches like steel springs, and lung and heart room to send them traveling like will-o'-wisps. Will-o'-of-the-wisps, rather. I know them as will-o'-wisps. No, enemies did not stamp out the spirited Welsh pony. They only made him stronger, hardier, wiser, and above all, they preserved the purity of his blood by not mixing with other breeds. He had remained distinct. There is a fineness about the Welsh pony, a kind of nobility in his bearing, as if he knows that in his veins flows the blood of an Arabian. It shows in the refinement of his head, in his dished face, his pint-pot muzzle, even in his color. Never is there a piebald or a skewbald among the true Welsh mountain ponies. There are bay, brown, and chestnut, with grays predominating, just as in the Arab. At first, people wondered how the blood of the horse of the desert found its way into the Welsh mountains. Then, as they began to ask questions, it became clear. In faraway times, had not the Romans invaded Wales, and was it not likely that they brought with them the spoils of their campaigns in Africa, the desert ponies, and that satisfied their eye for beauty and their need for a quick flight? For 400 years, the Romans had occupied Wales, importing more and more Arabian horses, which mingled with the native wild herds. Their offspring became pack ponies for the Romans, but they did not look like pack ponies at all. They had the elegant form of the Arabian, and they were fleet of foot like the Arabian. In truth, they were the diminutive Arabians. But Henry VIII was not one to appreciate the fine symmetry of these ponies, hence his decree which almost wiped out the Welsh mountain pony. It is a long road, however, that has no turning. Today the ponies still live high up in the tablelands, but when winter overstays, they are not afraid to nimble foot down the mountain. The hand of man is friendly now, even when it captures some of the fillies and colts for breeding purposes. The curious truth is that these creatures thrive in captivity, yet no matter where they go, they cling to their wild pony characteristics. They jump the brush hurdle as high and clean as if a sheepdog were snapping at their heels, and at the walk or trot, they pick up their feet and place them carefully as though testing the earth for loose pieces of shale. Even in America, they have this heather step. Perhaps the ponies of Wales are like the Welsh people, who, in a changing world, cling steadfastly to their ancient language and customs. They are like them in another respect too. On the Welsh coat of arms, the motto describes the people. The words of the motto are "Ich dien, I serve." Every Welshman who understands pony characteristics insists that "Ich dien" describes the mountain pony too, for he serves his master well. No wonder he is a champion, and when the blue ribbon comes his way, he wears it in his headstall, as if to the manner born. Now we are ready for the Chincoteague Pony. There was a book written about this, I believe. Misty of Chickadee, I believe. Just give me a sec here. I was just checking to make sure that I wasn't overcharging my battery. Thank you. Okay, and we are to the Chincoteague Pony. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, and I apologize. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce this. Oh, and there went my battery. That's fine. I'm going to unplug I need to fully recharge it. Okay, let's get this started. 5 miles out in the Atlantic Ocean, off the eastern coast of Virginia, lie 2 tiny wind-rippled islands. They are as rich in horse lore as a mince pie is rich in raisins. Here we go. I am pronouncing it wrong. Sorry, guys. Chincoteague, pronounced Chincoteague. It has pronunciation, thankfully. I can correct my pronunciation now. Is the smaller island, 7 miles long and just 21 inches above the sea. Astoria is the bold outrider protecting little Chincoteague from high winds and high seas. Oystermen, clam diggers, and boat builders live on Chincoteague, but the outer island is left to the wild things, and the wild ponies, and the birds. How the pony came to be there is legend, but Grandpa Beebe, one of the natives, says, Legends be the only stories as is true. Facts are fine, far as they go, but they're water bugs skittering atop the water. Legends now, they go deep down and bring up the heart of the story. Give me just a sec, I need to... Sorry about that. I had to change my position. My feet were going to sleep. I've just done 4 or 5 of these videos all at once, and yeah, my voice is starting to show it. I know that. Okay. And so, legend says that way back in the yesterdays, a Spanish galleon was bowling along the deep when a great storm came up and blew the ship off its course. In her hold, she carried live cargo, Spanish war ponies headed for the mines of Peru. The ponies smelled the storm and plunged against their rough-built stalls trying to escape, but it was the sea that finally set them free. It drove the ship into the reef, cracking her hull open and spewing the ponies out of their dark prison. In spite of the waves and the wreckage, they thrashed their way to the nearest shore, and the first land that they touched was the beach of Astoria. Not a solitary soul lived on the whole island, and there were no fences anywhere, only wide stretches of sand and marshland, where salt-flavored grass and piney woods. Land and sea and sky were theirs to be shared only with the black skimmer bird and the blue herons and the clacking geese. Always before, the ponies had been accustomed to man's care. Now they had to rustle their own living. In winter, they huddled in the woods, stripping the bark of pine trees, eating bark and needles too, and they ate the myrtle leaves that stayed green. For drinking water, they broke little mirrors of ice with their hooves and drank the brackish water beneath, and they grew rough winter coats which took the place of man-made shelter. Snow sometimes sifted onto their backs and made a white fleece without melting. So heavy were their coats. Who minded winter? Not the ponies. The Chincoteague Indians who used to hunt on the island now stayed far away. From their canoes they could see the ponies running wild along the shore, and the sight filled them with a nameless fear. Okay, a nameless fear. Okay, let's take a look at these pictures since we're starting a new... Okay. Now, let's talk about that nameless fear. The white men, however, were unafraid. A few pulled over to Astoria and built houses there, but by that time the ponies had grown to such numbers that they overran the island, trampling cleared plots and eating corn blades as fast as they pushed through the ground. In dismay, the people gathered their belongings and sculled back across the channel to live in Chincoteague. Today, the outer island of Chincoteague is still a wildlife refuge except for Pony Penning Day. On that day, late in July, the watermen on Chincoteague turn cowboy. Still wearing their fisherman cap and boots, they ferry their own riding horses over to Chincoteague to round up the wild ponies. It is the oldest roundup in America. Through bog and briars and bulrushes they ride, spooking the ponies out of their hidden places, driving them down to Tom's Cove at exactly low tide. A signal is given, and the wild herds, colts and all, are driven into the sea for the swim across to Chincoteague. The channel boils with ponies, stallions neighing to their mares, mares whinnying to their colts, colts squealing in panic, and all across the channel, oyster boats ride herds on the ponies, keeping them swimming towards Chincoteague. At last, wet and blown, and the wild things scramble out of the water, and a cheer goes up from the throng of visitors who have come to see the biggest Wild West show of the East. In their mind's eye, they are selecting their own colt to buy at tomorrow's sale, for Chincoteague ponies captured early make good friendly mounts. The mares and stallions, of course, are too wild. After a day of being penned up in big corrals, they are driven back again to Chincoteague for another year of freedom. Why are some of the ponies bigger and some small, some solid colors and some daubed with white? The reason is that at one time a Shetland stallion was turned loose on Chincoteague to run with the wild ponies. His influence is seen in the smallness of stature and the two-toned color of many. The pony Misty of Chincoteague is one of these, and she is strangely marked over her withers. Over her withers there is a white spot spread out like a map of the United States, and on her side there is a marking in the shape of a plow. As a foal, she seemed more mist than real. Her coat was a soft fusion of silver and gold, and her eyelashes were gold and wonderfully long in contrast to her shaggy sire and dam. She appeared like something from a cloud. During the sale, no one dared touch her, for her wild sire glowered at people through the ambush of his forelock. And as Misty lay sleeping, her mother made fence posts of her legs, keeping her foal safe inside them. But after Misty's sire was driven back to Chincoteague, Grandpa Beebe and his two grandchildren kept Misty for a very special purpose. She was to be the heroine of a book. They cared for her and gentled her, and true to their promise, when fall came, they crated Misty and shipped her to her new owner. On a chilly, rain-soaked night, she arrived at her destination near Chicago, and when the crate was opened, there stood a miserable little object, head down, tail tucked in, eyes and nose running, and so stiff-legged that even when the crate opened, she only stood snuffling and cold and afraid. The author was torn by conflicting emotions. Where was the map on Misty's withers? Where was the plow on her side? There were no markings at all. From head to tail she was the color of soot, snow, and woolly as a bear. Then Grandpa Beebe, had he shipped the wrong pony? And suddenly the author did not care. Here was a creature that needed help. A hot mash to eat and a warm bed and companionship. And so the little book character and her storyteller spent the stormy night in the stall together, and the little thing slept with her head cradled in human hands. Winter passed, spring came, and Misty rolled and rolled in the grass until her winter coat came off in great swatches for the birds to carry away, and wonder of wonders, there was the gold coat, and there was the white markings, one in the shape of a map and the other a plow. Grandpa Beebe had sent the right pony after all. Misty is now a grown-up mare, But her coat still changes with the seasons. She has forgotten her wild ancestors and has adopted people completely. She actually seems to be one of them, traveling as gaily as a person acting on television, attending a meeting with librarians, going up in elevators with them, visiting a suite in one of the fine hotels. She even refreshed herself in the wash basin, lipping the pure water, so different from the brackish pools of Chincoteague. The librarian asked, "Can this be the same creature whose ancestors ran wild and free?" The question caused a wondering. Was Misty unhappy? Did she long for her freedom? But back home again, the storyteller had only to look out of her window to see Misty running to the fence to meet a group of children as she shook hands with each one. It was plain that Misty had found her kind of happiness with people. No one had ever told her she is not one of them. She wouldn't believe it anyways. And that was Chincoteague, the Chincoteague Pony. In the next one, we'll be reading The Burro or Donkey and The Mule. And as I'm saying, this series is almost done. As you can see, we only have this one left and this one left. So we only have 4 stories left in this book. This is Album of Horses. This has been Album of Horses and by Marguerite Henry and illustrated by Wesley Dennis. And as always, I appreciate all the support. I'm going to say that first. If you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe and ring the bell so you know when I upload. And as always, thanks for watching, everyone. And have a great day.